To make us expert in customer engagement on conversion optimization, we have Mr. Joost Fromberg, consultant and product owner at Online Dialogue with us. Mr. Joost Fromberg works as consultant and product owner at Online Dialogue with the award-winning team of data, psychology and UX specialists and optimizes organizations and conversion rates for brands such as Hostelworld, Vodafone, eBay and Cheap Tickets. As an international keynote speaker on digital transformation, consumer psychology and online persuasion, you can find them at conferences such as Immerse Conversation 2017, Mobile Academy Google 2017, Smart Summit 2017 at UK, IoT in Aviation 2017 at UK, Internet of Manufacturing 2018 and many others. With a lot of experiences in conversion optimization and consumer psychology, he is all about the non but scientific approach to growing companies and improving online dialogues. With much awaited eagerness, let's call him to give a brief on customer engagement and conversion optimization.
Hi everyone. My name is Joost. I'm all the way here from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam. And the title of this presentation, I hope you can all see it, is From Getting Things Done to Doing Great Things. And that's exactly what we're all about. I am actually I actually see that a lot throughout the world right now, is that people are extremely building things, getting things done, building new features, coming up with new IoT ideas, machine learning, AI, everything is out there, but very few companies are actually doing the right things, and that's what I'll be talking about today. And before I get started, I want to give you guys a little bit of background. There are a lot of people watching, and I don't know whether everyone knows a lot about CRO yet. So CRO is conversion rate optimization, and that means you want to optimize the conversions. You want to generate more ROI. And the best way to do that is called an A/B test. And an A/B test is pretty much this. Here on the left you see the A version, and on the right you see the B version. When someone enters a website, in this case Hostelworld, one of the largest hostel room operators, when they get to the site, they randomly either see A or they see B. So there's a 50-50 split. And what you can do is that you can manipulate things on a website to see what type of impact it has on consumer behavior. So here you see in number one, just an example. But the real reason, why do we need to experiment? And the answer is really simple. If you would ask a designer here, I don't know whether there are designers here in the room, but if you would ask a designer here, can you build the best hotel booking site throughout the world? Then it probably wouldn't look like this. This one, yes. It probably wouldn't look like this one. So this is Booking.com. It's the highest converting website throughout the world, and it has the most people using it around the world as well. And no designer throughout the world would have seen this coming. It would be such a parade of pop-ups, interactions, micro-interactions, things changing, and that's because that we have a subconsciousness. So that's what I'll be talking about today, about our rational mind and our subconsciousness. And Booking.com does thousands and thousands of A/B tests every day to unravel that subconsciousness. And if you would ask someone, hey, do you like this website? They would probably say, yeah, not that much. It's their ratio speaking. So that's the first step. We have a ratio and we have a subconsciousness. And to highlight how important that is, and to highlight how important to realize that is that if we take the evolution, and we make that 24 hours, so the human evolution. Only in the last 8.6 seconds we managed to generate a rational mind. So throughout the entire evolution, we relied on our subconsciousness and our emotions. Only in the last 8.6 seconds we got a rational mind. And that means that all the questions I ask you and that you can give an answer to will give me a rational response, but that's probably not your real response. And that's what I'll want to try to illustrate. How do those two systems work, that ratio and those emotions that you have? Well, if I show you this sum, 2 plus 2, you'll probably say 4 right away. I hope so. Not a difficult sum, but you immediately recognize this is sum. You immediately recognize the answer. This is 4. But if I show you a different sum, this one, then immediately you'll see that it's a sum, but it's going to take a lot of mental capacity, a lot of ratio to solve this. And there you have it. There you have the two systems. You have your system 1, as it's called. It's your subconscious. It's automatically detecting sum. And system 2, your ratio, that actually shows that it has to solve this sum, but it has to require mental energy. And if you want to see those two conflict, try and read out the color of these words. So you see that there's yellow, blue, orange. No, I want you to read out the colors. Green, red, blue, yellow, blue, black, red, and so on. As you can see, this is very difficult to do. I actually did it a bunch of times, so for me it's not that big of a deal, but if this is your native language, this is extremely difficult. And there you feel that you automatically, your system 1, you automatically read out the words, but I give you a rational task, and that's to read out the colors of the words. And that costs a lot of mental pain. You have to get your head straight in order to solve this. So there you have the two systems in a bit of a conflict, and you'll see that if you do this longer, you'll start to make more errors because your ratio will be depleted. So another example. I have a lot of examples, by the way, in my presentation, so I hope that you can so that you can really get a grip on what I try to tell you here. Do you see anything different, anything weird with these faces? No? I kind of do, but it's not that clear. But if I turn this one around, you suddenly see that this is extremely ugly. The mouth is upside down, the eyes are upside down. And the funny thing is that if you put it back up again, you don't see the problem anymore, because we've automated looking at faces. Faces are extremely important to us. And we don't have any rational control over what we see. And I'm gonna jump to this one. If I ask you a question, Jack's dad has 3 sons, Huey, Dewey, and you probably say Louis right away. And well, that's incorrect. The answer is Jack, of course. But you see that if you have an immediate response, your system 1 response, you'll say Huey, Dewey, and Louis. It's just easy. But if you look at it rationally, which we don't do a lot, then you see, oh, it has to be Jack. So I hope that you kind of get a feeling of your ratio and your subconsciousness and how those two conflict from time to time. And we actually named that in the scientific world, we named them System 1 and System 2. System 1 being your evolutionary old system, System 2 being your revolutionary young system. Here I have them on a slide. And this is going to be important because on the left you have your System 1, so that's the part that we managed to survive with. So that's subconsciousness. It's fast. It automatically sees a word. It sees a sum and it responds, and it's very impulsive. And on the other side, we have the system 2 side. So you have your ratio. If you have to think about a sum, it's going to be very difficult. You have to be conscious. It's very slow, and it's very considered. You really have to think about what you're saying here. So that's system 1 and system 2. And we all have that in our brain. Those are the decision-making things, the fundamentals of us. They're extremely important. And why are they important? Is that digital marketing is all about communication. So you want to communicate properly. So you want to think about which system is active and which system am I talking to. And I want to give you guys a couple of examples of how that works. And I hope that you can join me in this one because it's going to get interactive again. So there's this study, and you have two groups, Group A and Group B. And Group A has to remember 7 digits, and Group B only has to remember 2 digits. Next up, they ask, all right, thanks for remembering those 7 or 2 digits. You can now choose your reward. And it's either a great chocolate cake that we all want, or it's the rational, better option, a healthy salad. And what you see is that people who had to remember 7 digits were able to, were more likely to pick the moisty chocolate cake than compared to the people who only had to remember 2. And you might recognize this, that after a long day of work, you go to the grocery store and you come out with a frozen and oven pizza and some chocolate for on the couch. So you have this as well. You have a depleted system 2, a depleted ratio. So it's easier you fall back into your urges, your system 1 urges. Hope you guys get that. By the way, if there are any questions, please type them in there in the chat. I read everything right now, so I can immediately respond to this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a test with you to see whether I can, as we call it, mindfuck you. I'm going to give you guys a couple of questions, and at the end, I want you to answer them immediately. Okay. All right. How much is 15 plus 6? 24 plus 18. 3 plus 53. 91 plus 14. 75 plus 26. 52 plus 25. And one more, and then we're going for the mindfuck, hopefully. 125 plus 8. All right. That was difficult, huh? Now, think about a color and a tool. Okay? Color and a tool. A red hammer. Please type it in here in the chat if you got that one, or if you got a red, or if you got a hammer. I'm curious how many people got it. But this is something that is in some conference that I do this one, I have the entire audience that picks a red hammer. And why is that? And that's because these sums, these 7 sums I just gave you, they actually deplete your ratio, they deplete your system 2. And now I want you to rely on your system 1 behavior, your urge, your immediate association. And red is the most dominant color in the world, so that's why a lot of people choose red. And the hammer is the most used tool, so people automatically think of that. So it's kind of fun, and you can play around with this. I didn't prime you or anything, but this is basically how your mind works. If you do something, a cognitively difficult task, then it's easier to fall back in your system 1 urges. And to show you how important that is, look at these two in this A/B test. On the left side, you have the exact same side as on the right side, but on the right, you have these arrows pointing down. And these arrows, they actually did a lot for people moving, because in this B version, every 1 in 2 people got to the bottom of the page. And in A version, every 10 people got to the bottom of the page. And this actually drove conversions up big time because people interacted more with the website. And if you look at this one, oh, this was terrible. If you look at this one, this is a pop-up. This is probably the most annoying pop-up I've ever made. On the left side, you see the website. On the right side, you see a pop-up. And if you click on any of the buttons or the gray space around the pop-up, you'll be transferred to the A version. So this is probably the most annoying pop-up. If I would ask you, do you like pop-ups? You'd probably say no. And I agree, I hate pop-ups. But for some reason, people clicked it away and they interacted with the page, and our subconsciousness likes that. Our system 1 likes interaction. If we interacted with something, we're more likely to continue. And that's what you see if you go to Facebook and start swiping. And if you start swiping, it's easy to just continue swiping. And that's what happened here with the pop-up. We see that conversions, the amount of people booking an actual hotel room, went up 10% if we showed this pop-up. And that's interesting because if I would ask you, do you like a pop-up? Your ratio would say, I don't like that. But your subconsciousness does. Your subconscious likes it big time. And the same thing goes with lemons. If you have a home and you have friends coming over and you want those friends to behave appropriate and you don't want them to make a mess of your house, make sure that the house smells subtly like lemons, because we automatically associate lemons with cleanliness and we are conformed to those norms. So make your house smell subtly like lemons, okay? If you want to make sure that your house stays clean. It's an important life lesson. But the important part of this one is that it happens outside of our consciousness. So we don't think about it. If I ask you, hey, why are you so clean today? You probably will not say to me, yeah, it's because your house smells subtly like lemons. You'll probably say something else. You probably come up with a reason. And that's the important part. You come up with a reason like, yeah, I don't know. I thought I would behave better this time or something of a bullshit reason. Because we are rationalizing. We rationalize our own behavior. And that's a very important thing, because if you ask your clients, your customers, what do you want? What do they want? You're probably not going to say what they actually think, what they actually feel. So they probably give you a system 2 response. And there we have it. System 1 and system 2. System 1 being your fast intuition, your feeling, and system 2, your consciousness, your ratio. If you have to solve a difficult sum, if you have to do something important at work, that's when system 2 comes on. If you're driving to work, you've done it a bunch of times, that's system 1. You can do that without even thinking about it. Yeah? Hopefully that's getting clear. If not, please send the questions here in the bottom. I'm more than happy to answer them. So this is the important part now. So we've accepted that we are irrational human beings. We have a system 1. We have a system 2. And those online experiments, those A/B tests, they actually show what's happening below the surface. They show what system 1 is doing, what your evolutionary old system is thinking. And, oh, this is ugly. Oh, these slides don't work. All right. So, what's happening with CRO is that you want to unravel what's happening underneath the surface with your customers. And we always do, and I'm going to show you a client of ours, Hostel World, I hope you know that site, how we optimize conversions for them, but also how we manage to tweak the business entirely. All right? Hope you're ready for it. This is one of the coolest clients I've had so far. Hostelworld is the biggest hostel booking site, like I mentioned before. They operate in 133 countries, so I hope you know them. And they have a lot of conversions. They have a lot of people on their site. And the main people that are on the site are these people, the Millennials. All people born in 1990 or 1959 or something. They're all pretty much 20 years old, and they're going backpacking somewhere across Europe, somewhere across the world. And those are most of their clients. And what we always do when we start with a client is we do a big data study. So we look at the entire funnels, we look at the behavior of the data on the pages, and this is the funnel within Hostelworld. So you have a homepage, a listing page with all the hostels of a specific country or place. You have a specific hostel specific page, and you have their checkout. And what we saw in the data was that most people actually drop off at the hostel page. That was the most important page, that when someone got to that page, a lot of people would drop off, about 80%. So we knew that there was going to be the most of our energy. And then we started looking at some more data points, and I want to just show you a couple of interesting data points that we found that hopefully give you an idea of how you can tackle this. And this was, for instance, the conversion rate per hour. As you can see here, in the gray line, that's desktop. In the green line, that's mobile. And for instance, we saw that the conversion rate throughout the day increased. So that means at the beginning of the day, not a lot of people on desktop would book, but at the end of the day, more people on desktop would book. But on mobile, the line was extremely flat. So that didn't matter around which time someone got to the site, the conversion rate would be the same. And there was this interesting thing, because we thought this might be interesting System 1 and System 2 behavior. At the end of the day, the conversions went up on desktop, so maybe people were more depleted, they were more tired. The conversion rate on mobile was extremely the same, so it looked like a bit of goal-directed behavior. So you thought about it, I want to get a hostel, I go there. So that's very rational. And then we looked at the advanced booking days. So for instance, how many days in advance before you actually go to a specific place, do you book a hostel room? And what you see here in green is mobile again. You see that around 75% of all the bookings are in the next 2 days. So that means people need that room right now. They need to go there right now because they're now in, for instance, Amsterdam, and they want to get a hostel bed. So they actually 25% was booking on the same day. So it's very rational thought, like I have to get that hostel bed right now. And on the gray, on the right in the graph, you'll see that the advanced booking days on desktop was very high. So a lot of people were booking on desktop far in before they actually went to that spot. So that those were people that were probably still trying to look around, feel whether this is right or not, checking out multiple hostels. So that's kind of cool. And so here again, we saw some difference in behavior. And if we look at the System 1 behavior, so that's the mobile behavior, what people were doing on mobile, we see that the highest conversion was in the evening and in the weekend. They spent on average 30 minutes on the site, so that was very goal-directed. People really wanted to find a hostel. And 80% picks from the top 10 hostels in the list, so people were just checking things out. They really were motivated. And only 30% looked at a review, so that's pretty interesting. Apparently they didn't need reviews, they just needed to know whether it was on the right place, or whether the rooms looked nice. And if you look at the System 2 behavior, the desktop behavior, or the mobile behavior, was 50% booked in the first session. So that means everyone got to that site and almost everyone booked it straight up. And you saw that if they saw more hostels, they actually had the conversion rate drop, and the drop-off in the booking step was relatively low, so that means that if someone got to the hostel site, they actually continued to book. So mobile visitors looked very goal-oriented. So they did a lot of bookings for the same day, the next day. So that was actually our main hypothesis. So for Hostel World, we did approximately 400 experiments. That's a lot. And we all worked from a couple of data points to one hypothesis to multiple experiments to prove that hypothesis. And here you have an hypothesis. We think that mobile users are more goal-directed than desktop and tablet users. So people on mobile, they book for the same day or maybe the next day. On desktop, they book far in advance. So this is an example of an experiment we did to prove this hypothesis. On the left side, you have the A version, and on the right side, you have the B version. And we showed the filters here in the top and the B version. Because if someone would use the filters, we saw that the conversion rate increased. So we already opened it up, so it was easy for people to use it on mobile and on desktop. And we saw that it actually worked better on mobile than on desktop. And the same thing went here on this experiment, where we actually showed different filters. We opened it up again on mobile and on desktop, and we saw the same exact behavior again. So an experiment was a winner on mobile when we made things easier, and it was actually a loser on desktop when we made things easier. And it's what we eventually did, and it was one of the bigger experiments that none of them within Hostel World liked. That was remove the entire header image. And it was kind of fun to see what would happen. But an image is a distraction, and people on mobile, was our hypothesis, are very goal directed, so they don't need this image. They just want to know how quickly they can go to the specific hostel. So we removed that image. And again, we saw on desktop it was a huge loser. So they really needed that image for feeling with the product, for feeling with the hostel room. But on mobile, they were booking for the same day or the next day. So they didn't need to look at a picture from, in this case, Dublin. They just needed to know which hostel they would go to. So there is what we had. We had a big data study. After that big data study, you get a couple of hypotheses, big hypotheses, that you try to prove or disprove with multiple A/B tests. So we had this one hypothesis where we thought people on mobile are very goal directed. And now we're going to try to make sure that we actually prove that hypothesis with these A/B tests. And all these A/B tests showed the exact same behavior. It was a winning experiment on mobile, it was a terrible loser on desktop. And that showed us that, and there is the title of the presentation again, how to do great things. Well, you probably know this from your own company, that you have a lot of people within the management that say, hey, we have to do this. This is what our competitors are doing. So we have to focus on this. And Hostel World had the exact same problem. They had the competitor that actually made a beautiful, responsive website. So the board, the CEO of Hostel World said, come on, let's divide all of our development resources to make a beautiful, responsive Hostel World site. This would take approximately a year to build, approximately 2 million investment. And we actually showed these people with these experiments that there's a big difference on what happens on mobile compared to desktop. So you don't want a responsive site because there are completely different audiences on these two devices. So you want to make sure that you build an entirely different site for mobile compared to desktop. And there we have it. That's how you can do great things. It's because of these experiments that you see, oh wow, this is how it actually is. And you can come up with creative new ideas to actually divert the company into a different direction. Instead of just following orders from the board, please accept that our behavior is extremely complex and it's impossible to predict what will happen. So we have to validate those ideas. All these ideas, experiment to make sure that you can validate it or not, and use a structure like a fact and act model, which is more about that on the website. But it's start off with a big data study, look at it from a psychological point of view, and run experiments to validate those ideas. And once you have those ideas that you can validate, then you can make new decisions. Instead of, so Hostelworld eventually threw out this responsive website that cost them 2 million euros. And they actually decided to build an entirely new audience and an entirely new website for mobile because they saw that it was an extremely different audience. And there we have it. We went from just doing stuff, making sure that we finish stuff that our management says, that our managers say, to coming up with critical hypotheses that you want to validate, and then come up with new ideas that you want to develop, such as an extremely different mobile website. So that's what I do, and I do that for a lot of clients. This is one of the more satisfying things that you can do, is that people on the work floor, they actually feel much more empowered if they do CRO on a daily basis. Instead of just following orders, you get to improve the communication and you get to learn more about your audience. And I hope that this inspires you to start doing more CRO experimentation of your own. If you want to have a chat, if you have questions about how to do that, please feel free to send me a message. My contact details are in here. And if you want to download the slides, you can go to ondy.me/gdms18. There are all the slides. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think. I'm around for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Joost Fromberg, for giving us such a notable information on customer engagement and conversation optimization. Please do post your queries in the chat also, or else if you want to ask your queries, you can use your hand symbol which is there at the top corner to if you just click that, your questions will be raised and we'll enable you the microphones so that you can have a direct conversation with Mr. Joost. Thank you.